Welcome to Dorks on Sports, podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel, and just a quick note that we're going through some format changes in the off season. We're going to try some things out. We're going to do a monthly podcast, and then we'll ramp things up probably to another weekly podcast when the Seahawks season starts again. Speaking of Seahawks, we got Curtis there wearing his old school 12 jersey. How are you doing over there, Curtis?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, lots
I'm ready for
of excitement.
I'm ready for this new era.
The Seahawks era and the Mariners. Baseball's back, and those teams have to do some quick free agency moves. But we'll get to that later. We also have Alana over there.
Howdy ho.
For the people listening, there's the stream on YouTube, and Alana's got a picture of her adorable dog Buttons right behind her. Yeah,
an almost 11-year-old
Alana.
BU quotation mark ONS.
I love that. And then we got Millie. Millie's got a picture of her own little pupper, Fiskig. Go ahead. How are you doing? I was going to make a comment on your dog looks like a cartoon dog. Like if somebody's going to draw a cartoon of a crazy dog, that's what your dog looks like. It's like the eyeballs going in opposite directions.
Oh, he's crazy cute.
No, he is. Yeah.
My little Fizzgig. He's like 2.5 now.
Nice.
Yeah,
I believe.
Have you all seen Too Many Cooks?
I adore that insanity.
Fizzgig looks like the guy who shows up near the end, and like it's just a
100%.
little too much.
No, totally. That's exactly what I was thinking of. That exact kind of thing.
Yep.
Yes. If you haven't seen Too Many Cooks, go on YouTube, search Too Many Cooks. It's brilliant.
It's like 19 minutes of insanity.
Just it progressively gets way weirder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
So we got to get into this because, I was worried we weren't going to have any content this week. I mean, Pete and John are notoriously like they kind of stay out of free agency for half a week. But last week we got the news. They did the thing I thought would never happen. They traded away their franchise all-star quarterback to the Denver Broncos for a king's ransom. And then the thing I was expecting, which was released Bobby Wagner because of his kind of bloated contract. Bombshell. I mean, end of an era. That era of the 2010 Seahawks, kind of ended with the LOB and officially ended as of this week. Curtis, give me your thoughts.
I wasn't shocked that the trade happened, and I definitely wasn't shocked that Bobby Wagner was released. I felt all the way through the team was going to have to decide between the quarterback or the coach and Jody Allen. When Pete stuck on, I felt like they were probably going to trade the quarterback. And so I've just been sort of sitting on that. I haven't been, writing very expansively on the blog about it. And I haven't, pushed it on the podcast at all, but I definitely felt like this was the inevitable outcome of where this was going to go.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there was some tension behind the scenes between the front office and Russell Wilson's camp. And that hasn't been any great secret. Like, that's been the case for like the past 4 years with Russell Wilson and his annual, offseason.
Yeah,
drama.
It's been a good long while now.
But I have to imagine that some of it comes down to the fact that Russell Wilson's next contract is going to be up in 2 years. He's going to be pushing 35. I think he's going to be 35 years old. And the the next contract is probably going to be north of 55 million, if not 60 million. And I have to think that comes into play, that Schneider, whether Wilson was happy with the franchise or not, was going to say, no, I'm absolutely not going to pay that for a quarterback in his twilight years. What do you think, Alana? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think that that's true. I think we didn't. I think his fans want to be in that situation. We saw what happened after he got off of his rookie deal, and we weren't able to fill out the roster with quite as many stalwart players. And so what the things that pop to mind when I think about this deal is that this was the second most players or player contracts ever moved in the history of the NFL in one deal, with number one being the Herschel Walker trade.
I was going to say it's the biggest trade since that Herschel Walker, and that was 1992 or 3 or whatever it was.
And that resulted in Dallas Cowboys dynasty. We did not get the haul that the Dallas Cowboys got. I think it's important to note that. But the other really important thing to note, or interesting thing to note, is that Russ has such cachet with kind of the media around here and the people around here that came out shortly after, and whether or not this is a rumor, I'm not sure, that the reason that Russ wanted a no trade clause in his contract was so that if a trade were to come up, then he could ensure that Seattle was getting enough. Yeah. And this was something that was seriously discussed, that he cares that much about Seattle that he would veto a trade if he didn't think that the Hawks were receiving enough compensation for his talents. I think that's kind of bananas. And I think it's interesting that Russ is such a golden boy that he could have that kind of follow him around.
I think there's two ways to look at that too. Yeah. Because I think the reason for that no trade clause was the fact that John Schneider had been looking at Pat Mahomes, and then he started looking at Josh Allen. And I think Russell Wilson kind of saw the writing on the wall and wanted to be in control of his own destiny. I think the last thing he wanted was to get traded to the Browns, which was what was being discussed in order to get Josh Allen. Regardless, he leaves a huge legacy behind, broke countless records in Seattle, won a Super Bowl, took us to another, has some of the best plays in Seahawks history. Millie, what do you think? What's the legacy Russell Wilson's leaving behind? And is that soured a little bit because of the tension that's gone on the past few seasons?
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second and say that Curtis is going to disappear for a few minutes, and then he'll come back and join us. Issue. Yeah,
we'll miss you, Curtis.
Yes,
got to go to the little Hawks room.
Yeah, it's a big tech here at Dorks on Sports.
That's right.
Sorry, Millie.
That's all right. I guess I'm kind of not going to answer your question because I'm the wrong person to ask. The reality is that I don't have the love for Russell Wilson that other people have.
Oh,
his legacy is monumental. Before we started recording, I went back and watched a whole lot of highlights, sort of remind myself of sorry, that picture just popped up. To remind myself of exactly, what we're losing and those highlight moments. And such a young quarterback, completely underestimated, to come in and join this team that immediately was a different team.
Yeah.
To be the first quarterback to have 8 winning seasons in a row, like as a starter. It is just, what he did from the moment he got here was huge. And I feel like a lot of what Russell Wilson did for NFL football and for its fans was prove that You don't have to be drafted in the first round. You don't have to be more than 6 feet tall.
I mean, you're right. I think there's a case to be made that Kyler Murray owes his career to Russell Wilson.
Absolutely. Kyler Murray doesn't get looked at the same way if somebody else hadn't proven before him that there are other skills that if you can have those, you can overcome some limitations. And I mean, I feel like that's a lesson we all learn daily.
Right.
Right. Is, especially as, hopefully our society gets a little more progressive and inclusive, you start to realize like the contributions can sometimes come from the strangest of places that you don't expect, because everybody has talents and gifts. And Russell Wilson surprised everyone. I mean, he was the bargain of a lifetime when he came. What I will transition into saying is, especially for folks who have listened into our show, is I haven't felt like Russell was going to stay after last year.
Yeah,
I didn't think he would stay. And especially at the end of the season when they had that meeting with Pete, and it was very clear that was the first message that they wanted to send. We met with Pete. We talked about the future. That's all we talked about. Yeah. Like it wasn't about, we're trying to decide about you. It was Pete's our guy.
Yeah.
And because of what happened last year, I felt like that really increased the odds of him going. I think we all knew there was no way he was going without the right deal.
Right.
I mean, who knows if he hadn't done the Manning Monday night broadcast, maybe he wouldn't be in Denver right now.
Right.
Who knows? Yeah. He certainly became their favorite guest. And he wouldn't leave, right? That was the joke. They kept telling him he could go and he wouldn't leave. It was like, overtime. What are we doing now, guys? So I definitely saw the writing on the wall. I may have gotten into an interesting conversation or two on the internet, which I try to avoid, but I made the mistake of voicing my thoughts when people said, there's absolutely no way we're trading Russell Wilson. Why is anybody saying that? Yeah. Dipped my toe into that conversation and immediately regretted it. But don't doubt that I'm such a nice person that I didn't go back and say, I told you so. Ben, if you're listening, I mean, I love you, buddy. It's so the legacy is real. He did things for Seattle that no one else has ever done, and he will be remembered, I believe, in a very positive light. And the things he did for this city, to me, are actually the reason that I really like Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson, the player, kind of drove me nuts, bananas, bonkers, but. Russell Wilson, the man, the way he wants to give back to his community, the visits to Seattle Children's Hospital, that kind of stuff is the stuff that kept me believing in him, even when he wasn't my favorite player.
Yeah, my feelings on the Russell Wilson trade are very compartmentalized. I love what he did for the team. I love the way he played. He accounts for some of my favorite moments in all of my time watching Seattle sports. I think about the game against Green Bay, the championship game to go to the Super Bowl in 2014. I think about that all the time, and how that was, I've never felt sports emotions as strongly as I did when he hit Jermaine Kearse for that, 40-yard touchdown to win it in overtime. It's stuff like that, the long 80-yard bombs downtown, that, those rainbow arcs, the kinds of big play that Seattle hadn't had since Ken Griffey Jr. You know what I mean? On the other hand, it has been clear to me since about 2018 that Russell Wilson isn't the quarterback that he used to be. He's still gifted as heck, and he's he puts it all on the line, and he's a winner, and he'll take in and over in the fourth quarter and stuff like that. But that elusiveness started to slow down, and I think that elusiveness is what his X factor was. I think that's what made him the superstar. And he started getting sacked way too often, 18 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and all of that sort of frustrating thing you get with Russell Wilson started popping up a whole lot more. I also, I watched a lot of the games from his first few years in Seattle and then his later games, and his game has changed a ton. And I know I've said this before, but I think the way he played as a rookie was way more complementary to Seahawks Pete Carroll football than the Russell Wilson offense that he tries to shoehorn in, in his later years. I think that's what Denver's going to get, whether they put in a scheme or not. They're going to get a Russell Wilson offense, and that's going to be a guy who chases those big plays and gets sacked behind the line of scrimmage, a little too often. And for that, I'm actually, when the news came out, I got a little excited. I mean, I'm kind of sad that he's gone. I'm going to miss him, but I miss who he was 5 years ago and 6 years ago. But I got excited because now the Seahawks aren't spinning their wheels anymore. They're moving forward. They're going into the future. And we don't have a bloated contract, to stop that from happening. I'm worried that we might become a franchise like the Browns or the Dolphins or, the Bills before Josh Allen, where you get lost in the woods looking for your next quarterback. But I also have a whole lot of trust in John Schneider because I think he knows where to find those great quarterbacks. And in a Pete Carroll system, I think you can get a guy like Cousins or Minshew or somebody like that with a good run game. Man, if Penny's anything like it was at the end of last season, you can, put the offense on his shoulders. But I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think I was actually saddest about Wagner getting cut, even though I was expecting that. And maybe that's just because it truly is the end of an era now, but he was the quietest one on a team full of personalities. But for me, he was like a stalwart. He was so consistent. Every play, every game, he brought it. One season where he didn't miss a tackle, or he only missed one tackle or something like that's crazy. And I'm going to miss him like heck. And it's going to be hard seeing him in another uniform, especially if it's like for the 49ers or something like that. So crossing fingers that doesn't happen. But I just want to talk a little bit about Bobby Wagner and his legacy. My favorite moment of Bobby Wagner's is actually his rookie season. And this is only because I saw this game live, but we played at home against the Arizona Cardinals, and we blanketed them like 58-0. It was like everybody made big plays, but Bobby Wagner had 2 interceptions, which you never see from a middle linebacker. And it was his rookie season, and it was just a ton of fun. And I like that guy. I'm going to miss him like heck. How about you, Alana? What are your thoughts on Bobby Wagner and him leaving and his legacy?
The main thing that I think about with regard to his legacy is just all the tackles. He didn't miss anything, and and he's not the most athletic. He doesn't have the most burst. He doesn't have just the most overall speed, but he's smart and he knows the field and he knows where to be, and he had amazing instincts. And so, in those years watching him play with KJ, I don't have any particular plays in memory. Because I always felt like those two moved as a unit, and most of my feelings are about KJ busting up a screen. There's nothing better than watching that happen.
Totally.
But just like 198 tackles,
ridiculous.
In multiple seasons, going up against Luke Kuechly for 6 to 8 years, whatever it was, before he retired, is like the best quarterback. And knowing that Kuechly was a first round draft pick, and I think was Wagner a 3?
Second,
yeah.
Second
knowing that he came, what's that? Knowing that he came from a smaller school and became the prototype for that position. I think he's one of the probably top 5 linebackers ever.
And I think as far as his generation goes, I think he's the best linebacker of his generation. And Kuechly got all the accolades and the press coming out, but I think Bobby Wagner beats him in career. I think Bobby Wagner is a stronger linebacker and a clear first ballot Hall of Famer.
Clear.
And he's going to be missed. Yeah. What about you, Millie?
I think it's interesting. What the thing I love more than anything about Bobby Wagner is how much my husband loves Bobby Wagner. I love to watch him play. He's amazing. Same thing. I watched a bunch of highlights before I came on, and it was the top 100 that they did a couple years ago. And there's a lot of talking to other players and listening to them. They're all just like, Bobby Wagner's, he's unreal. They're like, he's always there. He's so smart. He's so ahead of it. He's just always exactly where he needs to be. And then there was just this highlight reel somebody had put together of his just insane tackles and sacks and all the interceptions. And I was like, man, that guy, anytime he got an interception, there was going to be run after catch.
Yeah.
He never just caught the ball or like fell on the ball. It's like, if he got that ball,
he was
going for some yards. It might not make the end zone, but it's going for some yards. But my husband, the Hubs, Devin, he has, his Wagner jersey, and he is real sad.
Yeah.
Which makes me sad. And I'm watching these highlights and I'm getting teary-eyed because there is something really special about Bobby Wagner and his relationship to the team, his relationship to the rest of the defense. And that there's a sweetness, like you said, the quietness, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle backpack. Like there's just something about the man that you want him on your team. And it was very sad on that day to lose the last two members of that,
of that Super Bowl
winning team.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very sad to see him go. I understand that there was some sort of humongous contract that probably would have been needed to keep him. I don't know that much about the financial pieces of how that works.
He was scheduled to make $20 million this season, and he's 32, he's kind of declining, and they knew they had to put that money into Diggs and other.
I guess we will see how much he is offered to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's gonna be a question. I'm still hopeful that maybe he doesn't get a big payday and he can come back to Seattle on a much smaller contract, but I don't think that's happening. He's a Hall of Famer. He's 32 years old, which isn't that old. I mean, even, a Bobby Wagner who's declining is still a really good player that any team is going to want. I kind of would like to see him reunite with KJ. I think that would be really fun.
Russ is recruiting him to Denver right now.
To Denver. Yeah.
So
that'd be okay too.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Yeah. I mean, we have to play them here next year.
I know. Well, that'll, a homecoming. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Well, now we got a team that's building for the future. Unlike a lot of experts, I don't think that Pete and John are going in for a long-term rebuild. I think they have a plan. I think they know they have a lot of strong pieces, which I actually believe, and there's just a few more they need to get. I think they believe in a Shane Waldron offense, that they can have a winning offense with a capable quarterback, a game managing quarterback. You don't need anybody who is better than Matt Hasselbeck to go to a Super Bowl. I actually wanted them to trade for Cousins. I know he's got the personality of a rice cake, but I do think he would win in a Shane Waldron offense.
But he's an anti-vaxxer, and we don't want we don't want to go from I put together a show, or I hosted a show about get vaccinated Seattle to I'm an anti-vaxxer and have to do all my press conferences from an isolated room on Zoom.
Can I just say, I totally feel you on that, Alana. And I was very anti against Cousins. I was like, that's such a move Pete Carroll would make, and I don't want it to happen. And then the whole Deshaun Watson thing started coming out. And then I was like, in terms of, it could be way worse.
It's true.
Yeah. I do think they're probably going to target somebody in the draft, whether it's this year or next year. I actually think it's this year. I think they know who they want to get. But I want them to trade a 6th-round conditional to the Philadelphia Eagles and bring Minshew Mania back to the Pacific Northwest. Listen, if you're going to go through a rebuild, even if it's like for a season or two, at least having like somebody with a personality like that, like Minshew doesn't have anything that Russ has, except he's got a personality. And that's one thing Russ didn't have. And when you're going through a rebuild, you know, having a fun player that you can root for kind of gets you through the day a little bit, especially somebody like Minshew who can, I don't know, be a little bit unpredictable in what he's going to say or what he's going to do. I think he's super fun, and I would love to see that happen. Curtis, how are you doing over there?
Can you hear me?
I
Yes.
think you can. It's your shot. We're talking about quarterbacks of the future. Who do you think Seahawks are going to get, and who do you want the Seahawks to get?
Okay, I'm going to start with who I want them to get. I want them to get Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
want to
talking
bring
about.
in. I want to bring Minshew Mania back in here. I think it's.
I'm ready to grow a mustache.
I think it's something that the vast majority of fans kind of want to. I mean, there's going to be maybe not vast majority, but I think there's a big part of the fan base that wouldn't mind just seeing Gardner Minshew for like.
I don't think many people would be upset. Yeah.
No. I mean, it's like I think it's really. Can you still hear me?
You're
gonna
it's a little max headroom.
Yeah.
No, we lost him.
Oh no.
No, there he is.
Oh,
Can you still hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You're good.
Okay, so that's my pitch for Gardner Minshew. They're going to
Yeah.
trade for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is going to be our next quarterback.
So if
What
I
are they
understand
going to
you,
give up for
Curtis,
Baker?
you're saying that you believe it will be Baker, but you would want Minshew.
Mhm.
I mean, you know me, I keep records of all the things you all predict. So I'm writing it down. It's going on the dork board.
I will say this. If the Browns win the Watson sweepstakes, I actually do think the Seahawks will get Baker. I don't think they're going to trade Baker to Houston if they win the Watson sweepstakes. I think they'll want to turn Baker into some more draft picks. And Houston's got a young quarterback who's kind of good. But if I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. If
So
they
Dan,
don't win the Watson sweepstakes, I don't think they're going to trade for Baker. If you're asking me who the biggest shot is of being the Seahawks next quarterback, I don't know. I just don't see them trading for Minshew. That's what I want to happen. I don't think it's going to. I think the more likely scenario is that Marcus Mariota is signed. And they find a young quarterback in the draft that they like. They're probably going to get in like a late first or early second. And then Drew Lock, the young rookie quarterback, and Marcus Mariota will all compete for the job. But I think I know the Seahawks are going to sign a veteran.
I wouldn't mind that.
And I think that veteran is going to be Marcus Mariota.
I feel like this is a version of Fuck, Marry, Kill right now.
Yeah, yes.
Because it's like, well, I want Minshew, but I guess I could sign Mariota, and then there's Drew Lock.
I don't wanna, but I actually like Mariota, and I think he can do some fun stuff in a Waldron offense. That's
Sure.
Primary run. Yeah.
But you also think that we're going to draft a quarterback? Is that what I heard?
Yes,
as well?
I think it's going to be a lot like 2012 when we signed Matt Flynn. We drafted Russell Wilson and we had T-Jack on the roster. I think that's exactly what it's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Alana.
So replace so everything that Curtis said and everything that you said, but replace Gardner Minshew with Colin Kaepernick. That's who I want.
I would love that.
I think that the personality is there, but it's a different kind of personality. I think
Yeah.
that the fact that we are coming off having a black quarterback. I don't want to go to a porn star white guy, like I would rather have, and I think that Seattle, if you can bring in someone who can capture the energy of the city.
Yeah.
And I think that Seattle as a city has a particular like wokeness to it. I don't say that pejoratively. That having the activist quarterback, another activist quarterback, because really Russell, that is one positive thing about Russell is he did it quietly and he did it quietly,
but he was.
Yeah. But having then the loud guy and having a guy that has a relationship with Tyler Lockett, like I know that Lockett just offered to catch passes from him, but like that's meaningful. That says something. And so I really would love to see that happen. And it would make me want to root for the Seahawks. Like, I mean, obviously I root for the Seahawks, but like if they would have traded for Watson, I would have been done. Like, that's, like those women have everything to lose.
Yes.
And there are 22 of them.
And so they all have the same story.
And they all have the same story. And they didn't corroborate their stories. So like,
right.
Like who's okay. So like, we're going to believe this one man over 22 women.
Right.
Because they work in a particular industry. So anyway, beside the point, I'm really glad to see Mitch Trubisky picked up.
Totally.
I'm really glad they signed what's his face? Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, because I have no interest in him. And beyond that, like, if I agree, if you're going to have a rebuild season, and I think that this next season is likely a rebuild season, that just bring in someone for some fun. Like, I don't have the same like appreciation and like love for Gardner Minshew, but if it's Gardner Minshew, you're right, it's probably going to be fun. If it's Colin Kaepernick, it's super absolutely going to be fun. So like, so if I had to, but I do agree that Mariota is the most likely candidate for just a signing. And I think that Pete could resuscitate his career a little bit, and Waldron, but I don't otherwise think he's that great of a fit. But I would love to be proven wrong. But I would say that that's the most likely scenario. So Millie, for your records, Marcus Mariota is what's going to happen. Colin Kaepernick is what I want to happen.
I will say, I do agree. I think this next season, the season 2023 or 2022 is going to be a rebuild season. And you might as well like roll the dice on a quarterback. Just bring in somebody fun, Colin Kaepernick. Give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. Yeah. If he loses a bunch of games, we get a high draft pick. And if he wins a bunch of games, then wow, like we just like, we look like geniuses. Right. I don't know. I say bring him in. I would love to see Colin Kaepernick here. I think that's a cool story. Millie.
Well, I did want to just check, Alana, do you think we are going to take a quarterback in the first round?
I do not, because I think that they're both, the two quarterbacks that fit what Carroll wants. I think Malik Willis is probably going to go fairly early, and earlier than we would draft him. And I think that Coral, I think, is just that Pete likes to see his own name maybe on a jersey. I don't care. Like this quarterback class has been called like the worst in decades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why would we want? If we're drafting a quarterback in the third round, like by all means do it. Like, don't have any expectation for the drafted quarterback. And then maybe they pull another rabbit out of their hat. And if we're looking at 2012 all over again, what happened in 2012?
Yeah.
We went to the playoffs and lost on a heartbreaker to the Atlanta Falcons, and then Russ says, "Oh, this team's going to win the Super Bowl next year," basically.
Yeah,
and that's what happened. So, like,
I'll tell you why I think the Seahawks are going to draft Matt Corral, and you can put this down in your prediction, Millie. Right. Here's why I think that. Matt Corral has a lot of the same qualities that Aaron Rodgers has. His game is the same, the way he kind of approaches it. And John Schneider is the one who, drafted Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay at the end of the first round in a draft that they didn't need a quarterback. They had Brett Favre still in his prime. I think John Schneider is in love with the guy. I think he sees a lot of Aaron Rodgers in him, and John Schneider is not afraid to, draft high when he likes a quarterback, just like the draft that Aaron Rodgers came out of. That was also a quote unquote weak quarterback draft. And John Schneider, said, I don't care. I'm taking this quarterback anyway. I think that he sees a lot of the same qualities in Matt Corral. And I think that is why they may have really pulled that trigger on a Russ trade. I don't know. I don't think they're going to use number 9 for him. I think they're going to use number 9 for defensive linemen. But I do think if Matt Corral is there at the bottom of the first round, they might trade up to get him.
Gotcha. I'm all over the place with what I think is going to happen. And it was only today that I read the tweet and I saw the video from Tyler Lockett. We all know how much I love my pocket locket. And my biggest thing with Kaepernick is, the guy hasn't played NFL football since 2016.
5 years. Yeah.
But when someone like Tyler Lockett shows these videos of the throws and the catches and says, this guy's ready, it makes me believe it more that he truly is conditioned right now in a way that he could step right into a role like that.
Yeah.
I think if there is any if we're bringing on a veteran quarterback, they have to be ready to play day one.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of bringing one in.
Yeah.
I feel like in Seattle, we never get what we want. So the fact that everybody wants Minshew means we probably won't get Minshew.
Yeah.
And I've warmed up a lot to the idea of Kaepernick. I'm still not sure what's going on. There's this every year they're like, oh, there's going to be this carousel of quarterbacks. And this year it was like, there's going to be a carousel of quarterbacks. And it was as soon as the Russell Wilson trade, the floodgates opened, right? Because then Aaron Rodgers was willing to say, okay, I'm going to sign a contract with Green Bay. Or vice versa. However that actually happened. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Tom Brady announces he's coming out of retirement 6 weeks later.
Now we've got Tom Brady. It looks like Watson might be going to Atlanta, in which case Matt Ryan
shouldn't have a job, but
I don't even want to talk about that piece of shit. But where does that put Matt Ryan?
By the way, I do love that Ben Roethlisberger retires and now we get his successor. Yeah. Good job, NFL.
So gosh, it's so hard because I get distracted because I think about, last year I was so excited for Fitzpatrick and first game he goes down.
Yeah. And
it's why you have to really be strategic and plan when you're making these kinds of moves, right? Because you could finally be like, all right, we're going to start Fitzpatrick. That's where we're starting. And he's gone. And then you got to go to that second thing, regardless of if it was ready or not.
Yep.
And that's where I see the idea of having 3 viable options, right? Is going with, say, a Minshew or a Kaepernick, where you want them to be ready day one, but anything could happen. So somebody else has to be right on board.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I feel like I don't know a lot about is how the team actually feels about Drew Lock. Because I feel like there's an interesting player who we have in our possession.
Yeah.
And who knows what that relationship could be like. And
I read
that happening as the season progresses, that Drew Lock actually ends up rising from the ashes.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I read that John Schneider was high on him. Both John and Pete were high on him when he was coming up through the draft. And that they see him, and this is a quote, as a distressed player who was in a bad situation. and that maybe they could rehabilitate him with the Seahawks. But they also said in that same report that it's a fallback option. So they're clearly looking for veteran help. But I do think they see Drew Lock as maybe a diamond in the rough that they could develop into something. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? It's like, Josh Allen looked like a bad quarterback for 2 years, and then he made a quantum leap. You never know. Drew Lock could be the same way. Who knows?
Drew Lock actually, from an athletic standpoint, comps to Josh Allen in terms of speed, agility, measurables, and all that sort of stuff. So we know that
he's fearless. He'll take that deep shot. I like that about him.
Yeah. I was actually watching. I sort of did a little mini deep dive on him a few nights ago, and I watched this really interesting video breakdown on YouTube by some quarterback nut online, and he was noting that for the first few starts in his rookie year, like he was looking really promising. And then something happened
halfway through the season.
A defense showed one look, and he, thought he could take a shot between the two safeties, and they changed up the coverage, post snap, and he feels like that almost interception spooked him.
Oh.
And so defensive coordinators started picking up that tendency a little bit, and they started to do the same thing. And so then he just sort of started to turn into a check down Charlie, and was just dumping it off.
It didn't help that he was in an organization that had, no real trust in him.
Yeah.
That can do a lot to you. I don't know. I think he's an interesting option. I wasn't upset that he was included in the trade.
No, I think he's a hedge. He's if they don't find the guy that they like, either through free agency, the draft, or trade, then they'll
roll with him.
They'll try rolling with him.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you going to say, Millie?
I think that they'll take a quarterback in the first round if they can get Malik. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to take a quarterback in the first round. Yeah. I think Coral's a red herring.
You think Coral's a red herring?
I do.
Yeah.
I think there might be some. Yeah, I do. I think he's a red herring, and I don't know who the veteran is. I believe that there's a veteran. I believe that there's someone in the draft. I believe there's
Seahawks Twitter is all the rage right now with Baker Mayfield. He just posted basically a goodbye.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And so like there's been different, Pro Football Focus.
I think the fact the Browns even took a meeting with Watson soured. I don't think Baker's playing. I think
I think that's been souring for a few months, though. I think that they've been trying to they've been sort of non-committal. He's in the final year of his deal, and I don't think that they've broached any sort of negotiation with him. And so, I think they're looking elsewhere.
I just want to say that I went back to the insane long trade around that Curtis gave us in his predictions at the Super Bowl. And there was, in fact, a Baker Mayfield in your scenario.
Yeah,
that Baker
I kind of feel like he's got some measurables and some physical attributes that would attract John Snyder as a potential replacement. Like he's I think that they like an athletic quarterback. They like somebody who can show that they can play action pretty well, and look off the primary receiver and find the outlets and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like
X-factor moxie.
Yeah, they like the personality. He's had, he struggled last year, but he shouldn't have been playing last year. He was playing with one arm. He tore his labrum in his left arm, and he gutted through that when he probably should have, he probably should have been on the IR and tried to heal up and then go back in, kind of like Russ did, but he didn't. But if you go back and you look at his 2020 tape, I mean, he was efficient. He was like, I think it was like, 3,500 yards throwing, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, something. I mean, those are like, that's Russell Wilson.
That's 2013 Russell Wilson numbers.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sad about Baker Mayfield. I think
I wouldn't either.
He's an interesting player, and I think he is all about loving the city he's in, which is kind of a big thing in Seattle. You gotta love our city.
Yeah, that's
if you're going to be one of our
true,
players.
Yeah.
So
it's the first thing Winker did in his press conference.
Yeah.
It's just what you got to do when you're here. You have to be in love with this city, or we don't like you. But so I could see that happening for sure.
What do you think it would take to get Baker?
If
2 and a 3.
I think so. Yeah, I think it might even be sort of what Indianapolis gave Philadelphia last year for Wentz.
For Carson.
They gave him like a third initially, and then if he started through the whole game, the whole season, the following year, a second round pick turned into a first. So if Baker comes here and, does reasonably well and, and puts up a certain, amount of, games and stats and all that sort of stuff like that, they could potentially do a similar deal.
I wouldn't mind that.
But I think I'd be more comfortable with like a third and a second type of thing. Which
Okay, well, just to keep things interesting, then I'll pick Mayfield as my vet. So I got Mayfield, no first round quarterback unless it's Malik and Locke.
I like it. All right. Another NFL news. Tom Brady came out of retirement. I don't know what to think about it. There was a ton of smoke coming out about it, that he was going to be coming out of retirement. I'm actually glad that it's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not the 49ers, because there was a ton of smoke around that. But then I don't know. What's a 44-year-old Tom Brady going to do?
He led the league in touchdowns this last year.
I know, that's true. By the way, did he break Brett Favre's record of coming out of retirement early? Like, how long was Brett Favre retired?
I'll be 100% honest. I do not care about this story at all. Like, okay, you were actually retired? No, like why are we saying that he's coming back? He didn't go anywhere. He left. He was like, nah, I'm gonna retire, and then he never actually said he was retiring. Like, that was not in the language that he used. And then he was like, "No, I can't be retired." It's like, just go fuck yourself, dude. Oh, you have unfinished business. Oh, the NFC doesn't have any other good quarterbacks now except for Aaron Rodgers. So
it's
you
like
think
he and Aaron Rodgers are trying to outduel each other in douchiness.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is winning, but like,
Aaron Rodgers is always going to win that contest.
But I weirdly sort of
honestly,
like Tom Brady now. Like like this whole thing of like retiring and then not retiring now.
It's just he's just like, I can't get away from the field.
I don't know. I kind of love that. I hope he does this
He plays until 50.
4 more years. I hope he makes it to 50 and he's playing the game. He probably could. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I think staying at home and not thinking about football drove his anxiety through the roof. I don't know.
Probably drove Giselle crazy. He was probably
Giselle was the one.
He would go to the fucking fridge and he'd grab an apple and he'd be like, "Go long," and she'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" No.
This is not my joke, but another one I heard was, 1 week of helping the kids with math homework, and he was like, "Screw this, I'm going back to football."
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
We don't have to talk about it too long, but I said I was sad to see him go, but I will say I also saw things as soon as he said he was retired that they kept not removing him from the lineup. The Bucks never retired him.
Yeah.
They never canceled his contract. They never did anything. So on some level, they were like, we'll see. We'll see.
Sure, Tom.
Yep, you're back. So
the Bucks, I think, were flirting with the whole Watson thing too.
They
And
were.
I wonder if that was just sort of like, like
Tom
hey,
Brady
let's
couldn't
just,
handle
like,
it.
push this out there. And Tom's like, okay, I'm unretired. I'm coming back in.
all right, let's move on from Tom Brady.
Back at Tom Brady.
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball's back. I have a lot of feelings about this. I'm glad baseball's back, but before we get into anything, I just have to say, fuck the owners. Like, fuck the owners of Major League Baseball.
Fuck the owners of all sports.
Of all sports, but like baseball in particular, which, the players weren't asking for that much. And they were willing to negotiate and come to a middle. And, the owner said, like, basically gave him a middle finger and said, nah, we'll suspend like the first part of the season. It's like, I don't know. That kind of greed really, really bothers me, especially when baseball had, record profit. But baseball's back. We're having a flurry of activity before spring training starts. And, the Mariners were heavily involved before the strike, and they got right back in it. And they made a huge trade with the Cincinnati Reds for Suarez, who was a stud, has had a couple of years in a slump, but a change of scenery could put him back to what he was doing before. And then the linchpin of it all, Winker, who's really that big bat I think they were looking for. That's big news. They also didn't give up a lot. Alana mentioned, you always know you hit the trade good when the fans from the other team are freaking out. Mm-hmm. And the Cincinnati Twitter was they were not happy. And Winker seems like a really, really good guy. And if you haven't seen his press conference, I really encourage you to go watch it. He was very vulnerable in it, and he's smart, and it seems like he's excited to come to the city and play for the Mariners. Seems like he understands that the Mariners are in a position to win, and that he's in a position to really help them out there. But I'm really excited. What do you think, Alana? What was your reaction when that trade went down?
We didn't give up shit for that. Honestly,
we didn't give up shit.
We gave up Fraley. This was ice. We gave up Fraley. We gave up, I don't even remember the second guy. And then we gave up Workman, or like a starting pitching prospect that is like the center of the deal.
Who's pretty good. Yeah.
Who's pretty good. But he's not George Kirby. Right. And he's not Logan Gilbert, who I know is on the main roster right now. But like we didn't give up anything. And Winker had like 28 homers last year, and Suarez, who was in a down year, had 31. Like I'm not, and the way I'm choosing to look at this, and I feel really good about it, is that we got a great outfielder who's a great bat, or a solid defensive outfielder who's a great bat, and we got an upgrade over Seager at third base.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's what I'm looking at. And not now, do we get the leadership from Suarez? I think maybe, but it's not Seager leadership. This is JP's team. That's the thing we keep in mind, is that Crawford is the source for this team. And the other thing that I'm really excited about with Winker and Suarez is just like, I'm gonna dye my hair a different color every day. And he came into the clubhouse with just white platinum hair, and everyone was fucking loved it. And like there was another picture of him where he's black on one side, blonde on the other.
I love it.
So where we've got Robbie Ray's ass, which is fantastic, as a meme-worthy thing, and now we've got Eugenio's hair, and like if we're talking about fun quotient. Like we were, or the fun differential that Dorky Scott Service said about last year's team. I think that we added 2 guys,
agreed,
or 3 guys who can help us have a fun season, and that's what I want—a fun winning season. And it seems like we're going to be there. And I'm super excited about it.
I am too. It's a team full of like really big personalities. And I think that is a recipe for success when it all can come together. I think, it can be super exciting to watch. What about you, Millie?
I agree. It's one of the things that I think got everybody really excited and into this team towards the end of last year was this sort of new exuberance. They were a true team. They clearly liked each other. They were having fun. They were playing ball. And that is what's fun for a crowd too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think these additions are fun, and they it sounds so big, and they hit balls, which is also fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Instead of, just waiting for that walk or, struck out looking. They actually like to swing the bat. So I think that just makes the game even more fun. And yeah, there's the quote from Mitch Haniger that, they got a team that gets the city excited.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true. And I believe in crowd energy. And I think that they're going to have great crowds. Especially obviously, especially at home, but in general, people want to see this team. It's an interesting new team. And there's a lot of people who think that they're going to do very well this season. I am super excited that for all the shittiness, in the end, we didn't lose that many games.
We didn't lose any. We're playing off.
I actually am not entirely sure how I feel about that, because that seems exhausting. And I worry about injuries and getting to the end of a season and not having your stars because you wore them all out. But yeah, technically we didn't lose any games. And the speed with which the organization of baseball was able to recover and make it happen was something to behold. I mean, anyone who works in business knows what kind of dexterity and long hours it takes to figure out how the hell you're going to play all those games and have the right number of games against which teams and all the other madness of scheduling and travel that have to go into that. And the idea that these guys are in spring training, a week later, just huge for the players too. I mean, that's whiplash, but I'm excited that we're going to get it. I'm excited to see a game. I'm excited to see a game with you dorks, because we'll be able to go to a stadium. Baseball's back, baby.
Baseball's back. Curtis, I know, in terms of the sports you watch, baseball isn't maybe in the top 3. But you've been following. You can't help but follow. It's all over the news. What are your thoughts? What are your reactions?
Initially you know what, I'm going to be perfectly honest. There's no tackling in baseball. There's no checking up against the boards in baseball. There's no elbows flying, fighting for a rebound in baseball. So it's a little bit of, I'm excited about it, but I'm just kind of like more in a kind of wait and see sort of mode. I really want the Mariners to do well this year. I really want them to go to the playoffs. I think there's a really great shot, and I'm going to be really happy for Mariners fans. But I can't tell you anything about the 2 players that they traded for, other than I know the outfielder at one point was an all-star. Last year, yeah. Mm-hmm. I heard Softy Mahler saying on the radio this afternoon that he's been injured a fair amount. Hasn't played consistently 100 games. So I'm just kind of like, okay, let's see how this goes. I mean, the lineup, I like the outfield. I think, Haniger, Kelnick in center field, and this guy. But he hits right-handed bats pretty well. Mm-hmm. Mitch hits left-handed bats pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could be an interesting lineup. The other guy who's the guy who I think is going to play third. What's his name again? Say his name.
Yeah, Suarez, Eugenio.
Kind of expectation is sort of like if you can get like, a 220 average out of them, that's going to be fair. That's going to be sort of around. So I'm wondering how much offense we've gotten with these additions.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that Suarez in 2018 was an MVP candidate, and then he hurt himself swimming.
Yeah.
And that injury seems to have been a long-term one, a 2-year one, a Mitch Haniger type of injury, where he couldn't get fully back to 100%. Now, the move from and we saw at the end of last year, his numbers started to tick back up. He has better OPS than Seager. He has better home run numbers than Seager. He's an equal outfielder. So it's really, I mean, when we're talking about it, if we look at it as a replacement for Seager, we didn't lose a lot of anything else overall. So I think that overall, our team is an upgrade over last year. We have a better first. I mean, our top 3 pitchers are, Robbie Ray, Flexen, and Marco Gonzalez. That's great.
That's great.
We've got JP Crawford, who all he does is get on base and amp up the energy. And then we've got Winker, we've got Suarez, we've got Kelnick, who will hopefully have a year of improvement. We've got Haniger in there. We just got it is an upgrade over last year. And I think actually a fairly major upgrade over last year.
I think so too.
And I agree with Jerry that I don't think we need to do anything right now. I think we can wait and see if Bryant's still around in 40 games and then see what's going on with Suarez and then maybe give him the bag. Because it sounds to me like he's not going to be on an opening day roster. I don't think Correa is either. And I don't think Story is either, because I think they all know what they want and they're going to wait to get it. And so I think that there's going to be some options later in the season if things don't go as planned. And then I think when it comes to the trade deadline, we're going to be buyers, full on buyers. And I think Jerry's got one more top line pitcher deal in him. Like, I think we might deal for Chapman from the A's, or we might pick up one of the free agents that are out there. I have a lot of faith in this. I have the same level of faith in Dipoto and Service as I had in Schneider and Carroll like 6 years ago. And I would say that I have more faith in Service and Dipoto right now than I do in Schneider and Carroll.
Yeah. Curtis.
Yeah.
The Mariners trade for Russell Wilson.
Oh God, I love that.
Start him at second base. How do you feel? Are you gonna? How many games are you gonna watch?
Dude, that would never happen because he was a terrible baseball player.
He got drafted.
He wants to go. He wants to go Michael Jordan route. He's like, I've done everything I can.
I just want to say this because I know my audio and everything was crap at the beginning of this thing, but I just wanted to say that because I didn't really get my 2 cents in about Russ back then, that I wish him all the best. But at the same time, I kind of want him to struggle because we'll get a high draft pick next year. And I just want to say that, like, I think that there is a very strong narrative out there that he wanted to leave Seattle, but I think that the reality, and I think that's true, but I think the other side of that is I don't think Seattle wanted to pay him $45-50 million a year anymore because they're sensing a declining talent.
Yeah.
So I think this deal ultimately, I feel like, is a really good deal for Seattle.
I agree. I'm
build back through the draft and build the trenches up. That's why I don't want them to draft a Matt Corral or the Malik Willis guy, even if they think they're probably going to be pretty good quarterbacks. Don't do the quarterback now.
Just reload.
Yeah, just reload, and then eventually the quarterback will come because Russ wanted to go to Denver. right?
Yeah.
Because they're built up. So just build the thing up and you'll figure out the quarterback.
And
later.
the quarterback will come.
Yeah. But I have no ill feelings about Russ. I love him. I love him still. He's going to be one of my all-time favorite Seahawks. But this was the right move, I think, to make. And I'm excited about the Mariners, and how I'll tie this in is I think because of the Mariners and the newness of the Kraken and how they're going to probably spend this summer in free agency to build it up more. This is a good time for the Seahawks to go through a rebuild, because there's other sports teams in this market that are kind of, gaining momentum, and
we get the Sue Bird farewell tour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gonna win that sixth title.
I know. Oh man. Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
So anyhow, I'm excited about the Mariners, but I don't know enough to really.
That was an Alana prediction, by the way, that the Storm would keep Sue Bird.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, nailed it.
And we kept Stewie too.
I think it's an exciting time to be a Seattle sports fan. I think there's a lot of new energy out there, and I like that. I like new energy, and I'm ready to feed on it. Let's get into some dorking. Millie, what have you been dorking out about?
I'm actually dorking about sports, y'all.
Yeah.
I am dorking out over March Madness.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to make it suggest it as a segment because we had enough things to talk about. But
bless you.
I love the March Madness tournament. It's one of my favorite times of year. My husband took time off work. I took time off work, so we can just sit and watch all the games this weekend.
Nice.
We spend a day with my dad and we all get together and watch. And it's something we've done since Devin and I met. So we've been doing this for years, taking at least one day where the three of us watch basketball.
Just together. Watch a ton of basketball.
And if not the three of us, then the two of us, because we used to also go to Austin a lot of times this time of year for spring break. So one of those two things would happen. But there was always a day of lots of basketball, and here it comes. And I'm so excited. Playing games.
Can I just say I'm starting a work from home job, and I am so excited to be able to watch those sports while I'm working from home. I think that's just going to be great.
Yeah. Indeed. And if you all are into it, because it is seriously just for fun, nobody knows what's going to happen. I would love to do a bracket game with the four of us. If y'all want to play.
Yeah,
I'm in. Yeah,
cool.
I'm in.
I will invite you all. So I'm dorking out over picking and getting my whole family to do theirs. We started doing a family tournament a few years back, and it got real serious last year where we got more family members. My sister designed a trophy and I won it, so I want to keep it. So I'm totally dorking out over that. And I will just throw in a quick plug for bless you, which is Reacher on Amazon is just delightful and unexpected in that, without having read the books, I have a feeling that the actor just completely embodied the idea of this very strong, silent protector type, but at the same time, like this very real, compassionate man at the same time. It's a really complicated character, and it is pulled off beautifully. It's not that many episodes. It is it's a good story, and I highly recommend it.
Cool. It's on my list. Curtis, what are you dorking out about?
Well, I'm still in the throes of catching up on years worth of the Clone Wars, the Star Wars television show that's animated. It's so good. It's just great television. I won't bore you with the details, but I'm loving it. And then I think what I'm enjoying even more is my 3.5-year-old son and I are really digging on the Ice Age movies.
Nice. Yeah.
We watch them, we rewatch them. The weird saber-tooth squirrel thing in the acorn, he laughs and I laugh and he gets frustrated and I laugh at him getting frustrated, and it's like it's just, that's a lot of fun. I never loved that television show, Everyone Loves Raymond. I was just like, I always thought like that was like the most milquetoast situation comedy show back 10, 20 years ago, whenever it was on. But Ray, what's his name? Romano, voicing that woolly mammoth is just spectacular. Like his comedic timing and the sort of, sort of deadpan, sarcastic sort of thing is just, it's priceless. With John Leguizamo, I can't fucking say his name. How do you say it? Leguizamo, who's brilliant as Seth the Sloth. And Henry and I have like probably watched 4 of these films like 3 times over. And I laugh at the same shit just over and over again. Like it doesn't grow old. Like the jokes just keep landing in the right way. So I don't know, anyone out there with young kids and you want to be sort of entertained what they are, I think the Ice Age movies are worth a revisit.
Ray Romano is a great dramatic actor as well.
Wasn't he in a Get Shorty thing or something like that? Was it on FX or something?
It's possible. He was in.
I was almost gonna check that out.
He was in Parenthood, of the later seasons of Parenthood, and had a relationship with Lauren Graham's character, and it was great. Like he was really great. And then he was in the Kumail Nanjiani Emily Gordon movie about her,
The Big Sick.
The Big Sick, thank you. And he played her dad and was great in that. And then he was also he was in Made for Love, which was an HBO Max show that was kind of a soft sci-fi that he played a dad in that as well, a totally like derelict dad, and was good in that. So dramatic acting and him go well together. And I also couldn't stand the Ray Romano show. Whatever that. Everybody loves Raymond. I couldn't know. Yeah.
But it was like the #1 show running in the United States for like years and years. Yeah.
I am dorking out on Severance on Apple TV Plus. I fell in love with it. I had no idea what I was getting into, and I'm glad I didn't. It's sci-fi, which is what I was not expecting, but it's sci-fi in the old school way. It's hard sci-fi. It's sci-fi with social commentary. It's that.
That's not hard sci-fi.
I wouldn't say it's hard in that
it's not space opera.
It's not space opera. Yeah,
which I love.
But it's got a mystery, and I watch a lot of TV and movies, and I can usually tell where a story is going. I have no idea where this story is going, and I'm 5 episodes deep into this show. I'm completely entranced. Quickly, it's about, it takes place in the not so distant future, it feels like.
Or maybe even the past.
Or maybe even the
it's hard to tell.
And there's a technology out there that makes it, if you choose, where your mind is compartmentalized so that when you go to work, you enter the building and suddenly you remember nothing of your personal life and you remember only your work life. And when you leave the building, you remember nothing of your work life and you only know your personal life. And these two halves of you know that this thing exists. This technology exists and that they've consented to it. They just don't know about each other. And it brings up a bunch of moral quandaries about like, well, if that's the case, then your work self is a slave because they didn't consent to it.
And they don't get to sleep.
They don't get or have any kind of downtime. Think of like, I put myself in this position. It's like I leave work and then I would come and immediately work again. I would go fucking insane.
Yeah.
And and they really know nothing about the world or outside of it either. It's very, very interesting. And now, of course, at the company they're working for, there's probably some deeper underlying not so good stuff going on, and that's the mystery that's sort of being explored. I think it is completely fascinating, and just like what the personalities of the work selves are compared to the personal selves. These work selves are so naive and childlike in a way of how they express themselves and the things they enjoy, which just is so smart. Written by a Pacific Northwest playwright, by the way.
A Seattleite who went to Western Washington.
Yes.
Dan Erickson.
I did not know that. And when I was watching the show, I was like, this feels like it takes place in the Pacific Northwest. It doesn't say where it takes place.
It's upstate New York.
No, New York, upstate New York, I think. And but it doesn't look like the Pacific Northwest, but it feels like the Pacific Northwest. Then I found out it was written by a Seattle playwright, and it made so much. And I just found out from an actor who read the pilot script early on in its development, actually originally took place in the Pacific Northwest.
It was originally a play. It was a play he wrote in college, and then he just kept on working it. And if you just keep, polishing that penny enough,
it's fascinating.
It's pretty shiny someday.
Yeah. I have a couple of things to say about it as well. We watched episode 4 specifically. Beth and I are talkers, if you didn't know that from this experience. And we often talk through the shows that we like and that we love, about what's going on in the show or about other things. We watched that 4th episode from start to finish without saying a goddamn word to each other.
Wow.
We were enthralled. And then a couple of things that you didn't touch on. The cast is phenomenal.
Adam Scott.
Yeah, Adam Scott, Britt Lauer, who has done a lot of stuff on the periphery of shows and is really excellent.
Patricia Arquette.
Zach Cherry, who is another one of those guys who's like an really strong improviser. You've probably seen in a lot of stuff. And if you've ever want to see a romance between John Turturro and Christopher Walken, then please turn this show on.
Because it's so sweet.
It is so adorable. And I'm just like shipping them so hard.
Totally.
And it's so old man subtle at the same time. But it is a riveting show. It is a lot of the episodes are directed by Ben Stiller, and he's a primary force in getting it off the ground. And you can see his directorial vision in how they design these labyrinthine hallways that they have to walk through.
And how they shoot it.
And it is, and the smartest choice that this show makes, in my opinion, is that everyone outside who is not severed knows about severance. It is not a secret. It is not only used by this organization. There's conversations that are happening at the highest levels of government about whether or not this needs to be banned or stopped.
It seems like one of those big cultural moments in this world that's kind of being debated and talked about. Yeah.
And
wait a second, I gotta cut in here real quick because I haven't been paying attention because I haven't watched any of this stuff, and I feel like there's a lot of spoiler information. Are you saying that the U.S. government is trying to ban this show right now?
No. I'm saying within the context of the show, the U.S. government is trying to ban talking about ending the severance program,
which is the program that makes you compartmentalize your brain.
I read. You please join us. We like describing things that for you. Like, don't check out because you haven't started yet, and we're really not giving you.
I want to be kind of surprised about it. I'm already ticked off that I've become aware that there's 3 Spider-Man in the Spider-Man movie that I got to watch. I haven't watched yet. I'm pissed off about that. You know, I'm so pissed off that like Disney just didn't let me stream this freaking movie that it's trying to get me out to get the COVIDs in the movie theaters.
You can stream it now.
You can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Go
wait,
get
no,
it,
you can
Curtis.
pay for it now. I don't think it's free to stream.
I think it's 20. I think
Buy
it's $20 to buy it.
Oh, well, that's something to do.
The last thing I want to say is that somebody in one of the podcasts that I listen to about Severance referred to it as the French Connection, as if it were directed by Michel Gondry. And I think that was a really appropriate way to look at it, because the thriller, the mystery elements are so central to the storytelling of it. But then there's also this like sci-fi alternate reality sort of culty thing that's also going on. And I'm really excited. I mean, like Beth and I have two shows that we're like, we watch those when the minute we can. And one is Severance and the other is Single Drunk Female, which is fucking delightful, by the way. Everyone should watch that. It's on Hulu or Freeform. It's fantastic. But Severance is like, it's a world builder. It's great.
Yeah, and it doesn't forget that these people have real emotions, and you know, it tells their human stories as well, which is a thing that can often get forgotten about in thrillers and mysteries and stuff like that. That just make every moment of the show worth watching. I love it. I'm a big fan, and I can't wait to see where the story is going. I also really dig the opening credits. I think the opening credits are super. It kind of tells the story a little bit, but also keeps everything a weird mystery, and it's got that kind of, I don't know, it's a music that unsettles me, and I like that. Yeah. All right. It was good talking to you, Dorks, again.
Yeah,
we'll
be back next month, and hopefully you know, there's gonna be, I'm sure the Seahawks are gonna have a quarterback by then.
We'll see.
Maybe.
All right.
We'll have baseball starting by that point.
Yeah, that's true. My name is Daniel. For Alana, Millie, Curtis, the rest of the 12 saying goodbye, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.